Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an unbelievably crucial round 13 of the Midwest F1 season here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in what part? Sao Paulo, Brazil. That's where we're in. Hotspot on the call with you tonight. I tell you what, this has been a massively entertaining Division 3 season, and it's been so all year. In fact, coming into tonight are two sitting atop the table in the driver standings, A-Dub and Brian Mosser. Well, nothing separates the two of them. They are dead even on points coming into tonight, 607 apiece. And it looks like at the moment we have ourselves a nice and bright day here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now, if you're familiar with this story that you've seen, pretty much the entirety of the season so far, it has been that of Brian Mosser versus the McLaren of the Noganator. Well, recently it seems as if Noganator has kind of fallen off this championship battle. He now sits behind the two atop the table at their 607. Noganator has 551. So, Noganator needs a 50-some-odd point day to really put himself back into the standing, which not only does it sound a lot, it really is a lot. That's the difference between a first place and P19. So, realistically, I'm not gonna lie. This one's gonna be a difficult task for Noganator, but if he, gets the consistency together and puts in a good result, and also has some luck go his way, and elsewhere with other drivers, he may have a chance, but still a couple of rounds to go, mind you. This is only the 13th round of the 15-round season. Next week we head to Qatar for the Lusail International Circuit, I believe it's called, and then on to the season finale of Bahrain. So this is, and I learned this today, this is I believe it's I literally read this as well. Penultimate is the second to last. I believe this is antepenultimate or something like that. It's a word. I'm telling you, look it up on Google. Anyways, Pete Gonzalez out on track first here in Brazil. This absolutely stunning circuit that's held so many incredible F1 memories. Well, incredible to some, devastating to others. Let's not forget the 2008 shenanigans with... was it 2008? With Felipe Massa and Lewis Hamilton, where Lewis claimed his first title just pretty much at the death with Timo Glock going slowly, but not going slowly at the moment is that of Pete Gonzalez, making his way down through the Senna S's now. Very difficult couple of corners there on the way into the lap. It's very tricky because they're kind of off camber to start, and you're going downhill as well, so naturally the car wants to get away from you as much as it can. But at the moment, Gonzalez is holding it well as he makes his way up the hill in towards turns 6, 7, 8, and 9. Looks like he's doing pretty well so far. Nothing to complain about on my end. Looks all good. Only 13 drivers on tap tonight, but the ones who need to be here are here. In towards what is translated to English, the Duck's Mouth corner. He's done well through it. And then down the hill through turn 11 and into 12. Purple sector 2 naturally as well. I think he may have botched the line going through turn 12 just slightly. Let's see how much speed he gets going through this final couple of corners here. DRS enabled. Down the pit straight he goes. What is he going to be looking at? It's going to be a 1:12.018. Not a bad lap at all to start from P. Gonzalez. Didn't have many gremlins with the car on that occasion. I think the only one really was going through turn 12, and that one was the one that really, I think, did him in there. However, in that time span, from me starting the sentence to now finishing it, Fuse Rogue has gone 1:08.712, puts himself atop the table, and 4/100ths of a second faster than Texas Tornado. Oh, and I think P. Gonzalez has just lost the car. Yes, he has. Well, I'm not rightly sure where. I mean, that's well, that's coming out of turn 5, and maybe has he just lost the car and has gone around and found the barriers. Well, a lap that I thought was actually pretty decent, and that one's going to be a tough one to kind of work with there, as we do have Call Me Maybe in the Mercedes, who's found himself spinning in the grass outside of turn 12. So he will have to abandon this lap attempt. I'm along with Brian Mosser now, who's making his way in through Sector 3. High-speed final section of this track, as I do believe we have an Alpine off going into turn 10, the Duck's Mouth, or Beak, whatever it translates to. I'm not actually quite sure. It's a 109.254 for Brian Mosser. He's half a second off the pace. More crucially, his championship rival of A-Dub in the Alfa Romeo finds himself, about a tenth of a second quicker than Brian Mosser, but at the moment they still, the both of them occupy the second row. Texas Tornado has done well to put himself within striking distance of Fuse Rogue here. There was many times in the season where Fuse Rogue simply couldn't be touched by any of his fellow competitors here, and so it is good to see Texas Tornado putting his name into the pool of drivers that can challenge for a win here. Fuse Rogue has taken 4 rounds this season, his most recent coming at Singapore, and last week it was Texas Tornado who did take the win here in Division 3. As far as our 2 championship contenders are concerned, A-Dub and Brian Mosser only combining for 2 wins, 1 each. Nothing really ridiculous. I tell you what, A-Dub did seem like he kind of, maybe struggled a bit. I tell you what, A-Dub is a severely talented driver, as we see Brian Mosser coming in here. A-Dub, one of those drivers, you just have absolutely no question. He's got some talent on his end, and if, all the pieces fall together correctly, you could see him becoming, very soon, I would say, a challenger in the upper reaches of Division 2 and poking his head into the Division 1 battles as well. He does have that talent. I've been here. This is my 89th Grand Prix cast for the Midwest F1 League. I do know when I see a good driver, and I think he absolutely has it. Fuse Rogue being another one. And Texas Tornado, I wouldn't necessarily count out of that as well. Brian Mosser has texted me in the Discord saying, dry qualifying, only 24% chance of rain in the race. So, we could be looking at, more or less, well, it looks like Pingvillo has pinged everyone, but anyways, only 24% chance, not all that much. That's really, I would say, I think it's going to stay a dry race, which really, I think I'm going to really enjoy to see, because when you get to the point where these races start being overcome by rain, you do lose, some of that overtaking factor. DRS gets out of play. The grid starts to, really spread themselves kind of thin. And that's not what we like to see. With only 13 drivers on the grid today, if we do get ourselves an opportunity where we have a race which is dry with DRS, and it's going to come down to strategy and legitimate on-track overtakes, I think that would definitely be better than to watch cars 3 seconds apart from each other go around in the soaking wet, hoping that they all hold on to the cars. Fuse Rogue has gone purple sector 1 at the moment. He's going up the hill now in towards turn 6, 7, 8, and 9. Tell you what, it's actually quite incredible how well he's able to hold on to this car as now he makes his way through turn 9. It's a bit of a tricky corner, that one, because as you can see, I don't want to say it's a banked corner, but just maybe the elevation of it seems that way, where there is sometimes, a second line around the outside where you do find cars pass each other. It's purple sector 2 for Fuse Rogue. He's a tenth of a second better through that second sector, and now it's flat out from here to the end. Let's see, with 10 minutes to go in the session, I'll tell you what, I thought for a second there he was going to come in because he was really down close to the wall. He does go 108.642. Now that does improve, but not all that much. Maybe 6/100ths of a second here. That now makes it about an even tenth back to Texas Tornado, who with a tenth of a second gap, I would definitely see him being able to put down a good lap here and really challenge for that provisional pole spot. I'm wondering how A-Dub is so far. He says he's gone a tenth of a second faster through Sector 1, making his way through Sector 2 now, in towards Turn 10. Looks all fine and dandy so far. As you notice, we're also back on the proper F1 cars instead of our revisit to the multiplayer cars last time out. It's a tenth and a half for A-Dub at the moment as he makes his way in towards Sector 3. We have one of the Alpines, I believe it is Texas Tornado, slow there going through the corner. Gab has actually gone P3 at the moment, puts himself 9/1000ths of a second better than A-Dub for the time being. A-Dub only improves by 3/100ths of a second there still struggling to stay within half a second of our provisional pole sitter of Fuse Rogue, which has to be said, if you've seen some of the driving that he's been doing, it's not all that hard to believe, really. He is just, I would say, really just a whole nother level above what a lot of these Div 3 guys have to offer. I will say, though, A-Dub, as I've mentioned before, very talented driver in his own right, but 0.5 of a second, I feel like there is still something missing for that Alfa Romeo. As far as the driver standing goes in that respect, it is Fuse Rogue only occupying P9 in the standings. I have to believe that he's joined the season somewhere in between. He does actually have a fair bit of gap here. He's at 354. When he gets to the 400 mark, that'll put him P6. So there's a lot of drivers, in his immediate surroundings, that being Gab of the Red Bull, Soy Loco, and the Ferrari, that with a good result, he could leapfrog in the standings. That is something I would certainly look out for here, as he does make his way into the pits now. He's invalidated his outlap there, meaning that he's got no reason to continue on, as Brian Mosser, 1/10 of a second slower through Sector 1 so far. It's a very tricky sector to get correct, especially those initial downhill corners. You mess one of those up, I think your lap is pretty much all over. It's like Monza in that respect. Brian Mosser now through Sector 2. Looks pretty well. It has to be said, I think he's maybe trying to just get a solid lap down here, move within that half a second. There's still 7 minutes to go in the session. I wouldn't see many drivers really risking it for the biscuit here. And yeah, as you can see, through Sector 2, slower by almost 1/10. So, let's see if Brian Mosser has enough in the straight line speed department. As Manigos moves within half a second, finds himself 0.493 behind, and Brian Mosser is going to call it quits on this timed attempt. Manigos has done well to put himself within a very respectable distance of the top two. Looks like we only have 3 drivers on track at the moment, that being the Mercedes of Call Me Maybe, the Alpine of Dead Text Message, who has yet to put down, I would think, a competitive lap, and Manigos, as you can see here, although we do have now, I believe, is that one of the Ferraris exiting the pit lane? It is that of Soy Loco. Let's go along with him. Just about 6.5 minutes, 6 minutes remaining in the session here. It looks like Anto is also making his way on an outlap here. Manigos, I'm sure, will be coming in this time by. Let's go along with Dead Text Message really quick. He's slower by over a second in that final sector. He should be on his way in now. Yes, he is. So Dead Text Message still yet to be within 2 seconds of our pole sitter at the moment. Noganator on an outlap as well. Definitely be keeping an eye on him. Again, he needs a good result here. A-Dub coming out of the pits as well. Just about 5 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. And at the moment, it is Fuse Rogue who has rather a stranglehold on this field. Let's go along with Soy Loco now as he makes his way down the pit straight here in towards the Senna S, the first corner of the circuit here. He rides that outside line, then dives back into the apex. Bit of a wheel spin there and there again. The back end of the car just getting a little bit out of line, and that may have really hurt his lap time. 5 minutes ago, it's not exactly a long circuit this. He is slower by 7/100ths of a second, but Soy Loco, I think, would have enough time if he feels it's needed to come back in the pits, put on a new set, refuel the car once more, and then get it back out on track. And well, I can almost certainly bet that that's what's going to happen now. He's lost the car going through. Where the heck did my phone go? That's what I had my track map on. Well, I can almost guarantee that that's what he's going to be doing here. He's lost the car from that transition to turn 6 to 7. Very difficult corner in its own right. So I would assume Soy Loco to be in this time. Noganator looks himself 0.2 of a second quicker through Sector 1 at the moment as he makes his way in towards Turn 9. Bit of a wiggle there, getting onto the throttle, coming out of Turn 8. Yeah, this lap might be a throwaway as well. 4.5 minutes remaining here. Noganator has some work to do. Finds himself P8 at the moment. It looks like, yep, the top 8 cars within that second margin of Fuse Rogue. Let's see if Noganator decides to come in here. I would expect he would. No, it looks like he's going to stay with it. I don't believe he's going to improve. No, he won't. He's slower by almost 2 seconds there. And so the McLaren, I believe, has just finished one. finds himself at 30% battery. Brian Mosser in the Mercedes, about a tenth of a second quicker through Sector 1 so far. Up the hill through Sector 2, nearly loses the car again, getting back on the throttle from Turn 7 in towards Turn 9 now. Looks like he's handling it all right here. 3.5 minutes to go. We're starting to get into that territory of really go for it here. And only 2/100ths of a second faster. Back end of the car comes around. That will be the end of the timed attempt here, I believe, for Brian Mosser, unless that has been a common mistake and somehow he's mistaked it slightly less than he did on other attempts. He'll go to the line anyways. He's not going to improve here. In fact, he's slower by about 0.8 of a second. Not what he needed. Gab currently through Sector 1. I believe that's at 5 seconds slower, so not one there. Manigos, I believe, is. That said he's gone 0.3 of a second faster. Could be wrong. Texas Tornado at the moment. Doesn't really look as if this is going to be a timed attempt for him either. And we'll have to wait and see. Yep, he'll be coming in this time by our provisional pole sitter, Fuse Rogue, on an outlap here. As A-Dub looks like he's on his way out. Oh no, he's actually on his way in. Fuse Rogue, let's go along with him. 2.5 minutes remaining in the session here. In towards the first corner. Just look how tidy he holds these first 3 corners. Unbelievable. DRS activated here for the Williams. Down the straight here. In towards turn 4. He is actually slower by over 0.1 of a second. That is not something I expected to see in the timing column in the top right, because so far this lap has looked pretty flippin' good. Up the hill, turns 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, he's held it really nicely then. 2 minutes to go now. Mandigos, actually he is on a time lap. To the line he goes. Mandigos will not improve, 0.2 of a second slower. Fuse Rogue through Sector 2 now. Yellow flag ahead of him. It's the Ferrari of, I believe, Soy Loco. Yep. Purple Sector 2 for Fuse Rogue. He's quicker by about 0.1, so I believe at the moment he's about even on his lap time so far. I think he lost about 0.1 in the first sector. He's gained about 0.1 in the second sector. Let's see what he gets to the line now. Not much to gain or lose here. So the line goes Fuse Rogue. Fastest 1:08.623 only. 2/100ths of a second quicker on that lap. A-Dub currently 6/100ths of a second off. Minute 15 to go here. I don't think A-Dub is going to be coming back out. And Texas Tornado only has a minute to go to get around the line. So, at the moment, Texas Tornado not necessarily in the best spot. Soy Loco making his way through Sector 1 now. Brian Mosser in the pits. He's not going to be coming back out. Noganator on an outlap as well. Although I don't think he is going to be able to get back as well. 50 seconds to go, only making his way into Sector 2 now. That one's going to be really close. A-Dub has done all he can. Finds himself P2 at the moment. McLaren Anto, 0.2 of a second through, 0.2 of a second better through Sector 1 so far. And I believe that Ferrari of Soy Loco, something has gone wrong with him, because he has found the grass in between turn 12 and coming out of turn 13 there. Not ideal for him at all. Let's see if Noganator is able to get back around here. He's got 17 seconds to do so. Yep, I think he's going to be able to, so we'll keep an eye on him. Call Me Maybe down the straight coming out of the pits now, 1/4 of a second faster. Anto's going to be coming up through the line. Fuse Rogue says he's done all he can do. Into the pits he goes. He retires. Provisional pole. Anto coming round the final corner now. It looks a pretty solid lap. I don't believe it's going to be going for pole, but maybe for the top 10. No, he does not improve. He's slower by 0.1 of a second. Gab has done all he can do. He goes 5th. I believe we've had the Alpine. Is it that of Texas Tornado? Has he gone off going through turn 8? Yes, he has. Texas Tornado, who probably, yeah, and he's lost his front wing as well. That will spell the end of the qualifying session for Texas Tornado. Call Me Maybe coming through now. He looks 3.5 of a second faster through Sector 2. DRS being enabled here. Behind him is Los Mandigos. This is the one I'm interested in. Across the line is Call Me Maybe. It does improve by about 0.3 of a second. Mandigos goes across the line, and he is slower by 0.2. And Soy Loco at the moment through Sector 2. He's not necessarily trying this time round, but Noganator, 0.3 of a second quicker through Sector 2. Texas Tornado's done all he can. Noganator to the line here. What does he have? Noganator only improves to 8th. He's quicker by 2.5 tenths of a second, but that will be the end of the qualifying session, and Fuse Rogue is your pole winner for the Brazilian Grand Prix. A-Dub will be a formidable opponent off the line, only behind by 6/100ths of a second. So here's your starting grid then for the Brazilian Grand Prix here. It's Fuse Rogue on pole, only 6/100ths of a second separate him and A-Dub in second. Texas Tornado third, Menegos fourth, Gab fifth, Brian Monster sixth, Soy Loco seventh, 8th Noganator, 9th is Call Me Maybe, 10th Dead Text Message, 11th is Anto, 12th is Maxo, and rounding out the grid, P13 is Zanif P. Gonzalez. Well, remember, coming into tonight, A-Dub and Brian Monster are tied for the championship lead, and with A-Dub starting in second, I think we might just see ourselves a new championship leader exiting today's Grand Prix. But Fuse Rogue proves to be a formidable opponent time and time again. Let's see if A-Dub can take him off the line. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, in Sao Paulo, the 13th round of the Midwest F1 season, the 10th season of Midwest F1. And speaking of the father of Midwest F1, congratulations to our very own Porkchops, who has welcomed his newest son into the world today. In fact, only just a couple of hours ago, so congratulations to Porkchop and Mrs. Porkchops as well. Right, I'd like to remind you that Midwest F1 brought to you, and the entirety of the Esports League, not just F1, because there is a lot more going on here. Midwest Esports brought to you by Raze Energy and Epos Audio. Here in Sao Paulo now, we did say only a 24% chance of rain. I will say the clouds are definitely forming here in Sao Paulo. We should see a very exciting race today. While we have a minute, let's look at our constructor standings. We've gone over the driver standings quite a few times already. At the moment, it is still Mercedes with the stranglehold on the rest of the grid. 944, Williams in second at 878. Alfa Romeo not far behind, 871. So only a 7-point gap there between second and third. McLaren 759, AlphaTauri 633, Ferrari 609, Aston Martin 598, Red Bull 585, Haas 532, and Alpine only just breaking the 500-point barrier at 503. It looks like has something gone wrong with the Division 1 grid. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. It looks like perhaps is there a glitch going on there. Looks like we're going to have just a couple. Well, what do we have here? I'm looking at Soy Loco's chat here saying, is anyone else's race time going up and down? Texas Tornado, mine just going down, same here. So, something is happening. Well, remember, Formation Lap is back on here. As it looks like, for now, the bugs have been sorted. Revolving around this game, the pesky termites that have ravaged this season and seasons before, and surely seasons to come as well. Looks like all but 3 have started on the medium tires, those 3 being Brian Monster, Call Me Maybe, and Dead Text Message. So it's going to be an interesting one with the Mercedes team, having both drivers on the same strategy, you know, give or take a couple of laps of each other, sure, but a safety car to come in at the wrong time, and we could be seeing a double stack for the Mercedes team, and that typically does throw drivers for a loop when that happens. Fuse Rogue on pole, followed by co-championship leader at the moment of A-Dub. This is a huge day for A-Dub here. Can finally cement himself as one of those drivers, as you can see here, 19 to 27 from hards to mediums. Yeah, that's all we got there. So yeah, give or take about 20 laps out of this 36-lap Grand Prix. Anyways, A-Dub today, I think, can really cement himself as one of those drivers, you know, perhaps the stars of tomorrow, really. It has to be said. I do definitely believe Fuse Rogue's in that list. A-Dub, I think, perhaps might be having to go with the F2 Championship as well. I haven't gotten points done for that, forgive me, but we'll get to that one of these days. Texas Tornado, I think, has, and Los Mandigos for that matter. In fact, everybody in the top 5 not named Fuse Rogue and A-Dub I think a couple of these drivers have something to prove tonight. All three of these drivers really have kind of flown under the radar recently, so we'll have to wait and see if Texas Tornado, Manigos, and Gab can put together a good result here. So Brian Mosser really has himself a tough job here. He's surrounded by a sea of drivers on the medium tires. He's starting on the hards. He's trying to play the long game. If he can stay out of trouble, his hopes of still maintaining the championship lead are very much alive. But it's going to start here with how well Fuse Rogue does defending A-Dub off the line. We probably have lights turning on here in Brazil. This camera angle's not all that good. I'll be honest, we do have 5 lights, and for the 13th time this season, they are off in Division 3. It looks like Fuse Rogue has definitely gotten a better start here. Mandigos has tried to file himself in line and get himself, but A-Dub has fallen down to 3rd. At the very least, he's side by side with Texas Tornado going through the Senna S's. This is massive here. It looks like Brian Mosser's made his way up into 5th. We do have a yellow flag in the back. It's P. Gonzalez, who had a very lackluster qualifying session, has found himself spinning around at the tail end of Sector 1. It looks like Gab and Soy Loco battling it out here. Down to the inside, Soy Loco. Gab has not had himself a good start. He's fallen back tremendously off the line, although it looks like for now, everything is relatively calm. Fuse Rogue has opened up a 1.2 second lead already as A-Dub under pressure here from Texas Tornado. Noganator and Gab are side by side now, going through turn 9, and it looks as if Noganator was able to take the line around the Red Bull then and has put himself a P7. So at the moment, the only drivers to change position is that of Gab, who has lost 3 places. Brian Mosser, Soy Loco, and Noganator are the only 3 drivers to have changed position as we find the end of the lap here. But here goes Texas Tornado round the outside of A-Dub as they make their way down the pit straight here. I tell you what, Texas Tornado's in a good spot. I think he's going to have the ability to really pull ahead as they enter the first corner. It will be the position for Texas Tornado as they make their way now down through the rest of Sector 1, as it looks like A-Dub has finally lost a spot and now finds himself under pressure from Los Mandigos, as now the AlphaTauri tries to switch back and forth and get around the Alfa Romeo, but no, for now the Alfa Romeo of A-Dub stays ahead. Despite only 13 drivers on the grid, we've got a lot of championship implications at play, as for now, Brian Mosser trying to put himself in this fight for the podium. Tries to find the outside of the Los Mandigos here, doesn't find it at the moment. Not to mention Soy Loco in the Ferrari, really hot on his heels here. And oh, look who it is once again, Noganator trying to poke his head into this fight. A driver who was in the championship battle for the majority of the season, only recently has fallen off of that. And now, today, with a little bit of luck, has the ability to put himself in the fight once again. Tell you what, Los Mandigos has gone quite wide going out of the corner as P. Gonzalez, I think, has spun again. The virtual safety car is out on track, as I believe P. Gonzalez is probably missing his front wing. Yes, he is. So the first little pause in action we have here, P. Gonzalez has shed a front wing somewhere along the Duck's Beak section of the track of turn 10. So A-Dub has lost the position here, finds himself naturally, being that what has happened with dead text message? Has he pit? Dead text message has either pit or spun here, because he now finds himself way behind the rest of the grid. I don't believe he was that far behind to begin with. It looks like Gonzalez has retired from the session. We are down to 12 on our 3rd lap of the Grand Prix. Hopefully we're going to get back to racing speed here shortly. Fuse Rogue, 3.5 seconds over the rest of the grid. Again, once you get Fuse Rogue in clean air, it's probably going to be all over from then on out. Virtual safety car's still out on track. I would assume it's going to be ending soon. Gonzalez is gone, and I'm sure the virtual marshals have cleared the debris off the circuit. DRS is enabled here. We're back under green. A-Dub has really fallen off of Texas Tornado here. It's about another 0.3 of a second. But here is Soy Loco trying to find round the outside of Noganator. Noganator's going to try to... Brian Mosser. Brian Mosser is going to go try to go down the inside of Los Mandigos. It's not played out that way, as Soy Loco will make the move around the Mercedes of Brian Mosser. And oh, by the way, championship rival of the entire season of Noganator now finds himself in this battle as, oh no, it's Maxo, has crashed the car, coming through the first corner, and the safety car is on track. And that incident had taken place just past the first corner there, really, I think, as he just found a ridiculous amount of oversteer, and that's been the end of it. So I think if you're Texas Tornado and A-Dub here, this one is really coming to your aid, as Fuse Rogue had a 3.5 second lead as the safety car came out, and we're only 4 laps into the Grand Prix. Let's see what people decide to do here. Do we see stops? I would think it's too early to go to the hards. Fuse Rogue does in fact stay out. I would believe Texas Tornado will do the same thing in A-Dub as well. So it looks as if everybody's going to be staying out here, and as the safety car sorts itself out, I will step aside for the time being. So the safety car will make its long-awaited trek back into the pit lane here. No activity on pit road, minus that of Anto, who has come in yet again. I believe he's fit the hards. Fuse Rogue, well, he's really had a stranglehold on the grid here throughout the opening stages of this Grand Prix. Let's see if either Texas Tornado or A-Dub is able to catch the Williams out by surprise and put together a good start. And there goes the Williams. Now, I tell you what, surprise may actually be in favor of A-Dub here, who looks like he's going to take the right side of Texas Tornado here, but decides to back out before they get into the first corner. So, looks like for now, everything is going to stay as it was. It looks as if Brian Mosser really is putting the pressure to Soy Loco here for the 5th spot, as round the outside is that of the Noganator, who will clear the Mercedes before they get into the 4th corner. I'm not sure what's gone wrong with Brian Mosser there. He's not really had the best restart to the race. Slightly odd, but I tell you what's even more slightly odd for now. Fuse Rogue still only 0.5 of a second away from Texas Tornado here, and I tell you what, Texas is actually having some decent pace. That was a big wiggle there for Fuse Rogue, and again, and down to the inside, Texas Tornado unexpectedly will take the lead of the Grand Prix after Fuse Rogue nearly loses the car about 7 times, holds on to it, and I don't believe he's hit anything, thankfully enough, but goodness me, Fuse Rogue nearly found the barrier several times, and instead only finds 2nd place, and by that, I think it may be only temporary as well, as Fuse Rogue now around the outside of Texas Tornado looking into the first corner. A-Dub has a good view of this. Into the first corner they go. Contact being made. Texas Tornado really pushes him up the track. There was definite contact there as A-Dub now gets around Texas Tornado. Does he have enough grip? I think he may get around Fuse Rogue as well. No DRS, but it's going to be 3 abreast for the lead of the Grand Prix into the first corner. Mandigos looking at it as well. All 3 of them make contact. A-Dub gets pushed wide. Texas Tornado still has the lead of the Grand Prix, and now A-Dub will fall down to 4th. My goodness me, what a unbelievably close racing this is. How in the world that stayed pretty much as clean as it is, and Fuse Rogue's gone around! And that really opens the door wide open for anyone on the grid to really take this race, as Fuse Rogue has spun round, going through turns, going in towards turn 8, and that leaves Texas Tornado, who won last time out in Japan. Could he perhaps go back-to-back here? Of course, we're still early days in this Grand Prix, but that is so disheartening for Fuse Rogue, who was really, I would say, prior to the safety car, had it not come out, been on pace for another win. A-Dub cleanly down to the inside of Soy Loco. That time, realistically, there was no challenge put up there from Soy Loco. A-Dub had him cleared on pace, and you could really see that going through any bit of the final sector there. But now, Soy Loco's going to look around the outside, doesn't have it. A-Dub floats up the track. Mandy goes down to the inside. Fuse Rogue is DNF. A-Dub dropping back significantly now. Soy Loco up to 2nd. Mandy goes up to 3rd. A-Dub down to 4th. And that is so unfortunate for Fuse Rogue. You just have to feel for him. Man, that is quite disheartening there. I'll tell you what, Brian Mosser really under pressure from Gab Not really pressuring the cars ahead of him either. I tell you what, this little chain from about second down to fifth really seems to be pulling away from the rest of the grid, although Texas Tornado pulling away from all of them. A second and a half, nearly. And yeah, there it is, a second and a half. Mandigos and Soy Loco were side by side there. Mandigos got around him. Very nice. And now, Texas Tornado's teammate of Dead Text Message, I believe, has found the barriers coming out of turn 10. And that brings out the virtual safety car in there. Dead Text Message's front wing is camouflaged in pictures of John Cena because it is just simply not there, and a whole flood of cars enter the pit lane, and important ones as well. Soy Loco come in, A-Dub comes in, Noganator and Gab all come into the pit lane. Absolutely massive developments here. Soft tires going on for Gab. Noganator fits the hards. A-Dub, I believe, fitting the hards as well, and Soy Loco doing just that. I think that was slightly an odd call there from Gab to fit the softs. I'm not sure what he foresees. Well, I tell you what, Noganator nearly lost the car getting onto the throttle there. But goodness me, this is a very interesting turn of events here. We're not even halfway through this Grand Prix. We've had 3 retirements, a safety car. And I tell you what, it's been a very interesting Grand Prix so far. And remember, huge implications on the championship as well. This, I believe, will leave Brian Mosser at a disadvantage when it comes to the pit window. Of course, it is only about, from Soy Loco back to Brian Mosser, it is about 20 seconds. So maybe for now, Brian Mosser would be okay. It'll be tough to tell, because I think realistically, Brian Mosser, if he did have the opportunity to come in, he should have held off the undercut from the rest of the grid. Or, well, I say he's held off the undercut. Maybe try the overcut on the rest of the grid. That's what he's doing here. A-Dub within DRS range of Soy Loco here. Another yellow flag. Anto is retired. And I believe that... Is that in the pit lane? No, it's off the side of turn 1. And the safety car on track yet again. And the grid is whittled down to 9. I tell you what, that first corner has taken a few by surprise today. Maxo and Anto both finding the barriers on the inside at turn 1 and 2. So now, I believe it's up to Texas Tornado, Los Manigos, Brian Mosser, and Call Me Maybe to take control of the strategy game here. Of course, the deltas won't be too different between any of those on the tires, although Brian Mosser on the hards and Call Me Maybe as well, they both started on the hards. Texas Tornado and Manigos will definitely be coming in here. Brian Mosser and Call Me Maybe, I think, still have some time. Although, I'm not sure what they'll do. Brian Mosser is coming in. Call Me Maybe has decided to stay out. Texas Tornado, I would assume hards going on here. I would assume hards for Mandigos. Yep, hards going on for him. Brian Mosser, did he put on another set of hards? No, he's put on mediums here. Okay, so Brian Mosser's fit the mediums. He'll have the immediate pace advantage, but he won't have the length in tire wear and tire lifespan. I think realistically starting on the mediums was going to be the better option with the early safety cars that we've had. Of course, sometimes you don't expect that with having 13 car grids. You don't really expect to have 2 safety cars, and I think that's what Brian Mosser was slightly counting on. Was, maybe is there not going to be any drama and we're just going to have a clean flag-to-flag race here, but that's not how it's worked out. And so he may be at a disadvantage in the long run. Call Me Maybe leads the grid here. I'll step aside while the safety car sorts itself out. So the safety car will find its way in this lap. Reminder, Call Me Maybe stayed out, as that's why he's been promoted to the lead here. 13-lap-old hard tires. Remember, they can go to around roughly 20. I believe is the number that the game gave us. Everybody else has stopped within the last 3 laps. Texas Tornado still has second place. Soy Loco will need to pressure him here if he wants any shot at the win. When Texas Tornado has been in clean air, he has been rather dominant. Probably maybe still backing up the grid here. Soy Loco ready to go whenever the time comes. And there it is. Soy Loco was in between, lighting up his tires there, and I'm afraid he's been caught out to sleep. But Texas Tornado, does he find the outside of Call Me Maybe through the first corner? Yes, he does. And Texas Tornado will once again take the lead of the Grand Prix, as Soy Loco did not really get the jump on that start he wanted to. And now A-Dub is kind of looking for the outside here. We got 3 abreast behind them, as it looks as if Call Me Maybe's still trying to battle here for the top spot. I tell you what, the pace is not all that bad considering he's, 10 times the tire age of that of Texas Tornado. But behind it looks as if A-Dub's still trying to pressure Soy Loco here for the final podium spot. Mandigos goes wide, Noganator slips in, and will take the 5th spot. And oh, that looked like contact there, as Mandigos falls to the tail end of the grid, and now Brian Mosser now, with those medium tires, again, we think he's going to be fastest amongst this bunch of the top 5. However, it looks as if for now he's not really been able to do that much on the opening lap here, the race restart. We'll have to wait and see if once DRS gets involved, he'll be able to strike back. Here's A-Dub, a 10th behind. That of Soy Loco here tries to switch back and forth. Doesn't happen. Is he able to get both of them down the pit straight? I very much think he will. As A-Dub, does he have it? No, he's going to make contact there with Call Me Maybe. I really thought A-Dub had one there. He was really trying to be aggressive. He did everything he could. But now it looks, as the tables turn, it's going to be Noganator taking that 4th spot. Well, Noganator's kind of been blocked into the braking zone there behind the Mercedes of Call Me Maybe. A-Dub's going to switch back into that 4th spot. I really thought A-Dub had the spot there, and I think he's chose better of it, considering how much he knew he was going to slide forward into the corner and perhaps collect the 2 cars to his outside. So thankfully, he's not chosen to do that. But A-Dub here still 0.2 of a second off of Call Me Maybe, as Soy Loco starting to kind of put distance between himself and the rest of the grid here, as Texas Tornado leads Soy Loco by 1.5 seconds. And now Noganator falling behind a second, falling a second behind A-Dub here, as I don't think Call Me Maybe's gotten good acceleration. Those 15-lap-old cars, I think, are starting to finally catch up with him, as here's A-Dub within the slipstream, no DRS yet. We'll get that this time by. To the outside looks A-Dub for the 3rd spot. Gab looking to overtake Noganator. Does he have it? Call Me Maybe, severe contact with the rear tire of A-Dub. And they're going to be side by side again. A-Dub has the outside, but he might be in slightly of a sitting duck here, considering, well, I thought he was going to be. I tell you what, the sitting duck is none other than Call Me Maybe at the moment, who now has been overtaken by Gab to the inside, Noganator to the outside. Brilliantly enough, he had barely any room to make that one happen. I tell you what, Gab on those softs, we thought it was going to be a mistake taking those soft tires. He's promoted himself to the 4th spot. Well, here's Dead Text Message. He's battling it out with Brian Mosser here. I tell you, well, that looks like contact between that of Mandigos and Dead Text Message. Well, the 2 cars collide there at the tail end of the grid. And if they weren't at the tail end of the grid before, they certainly are now. Big story is how far can Gab continue to climb his way up the grid. He is on the soft tires, and we're going to assume those are going to wear away quite soon. But at the moment, he is really looking at competitive force here, as now he's down to the inside of Gab, as behind, Noganator does get around Call Me Maybe, and now the Mercedes find themselves P6 and P7. About halfway through this Grand Prix here. I'm wondering if the 2 Mercedes cars will invert position here. I would think they do. Brian Mosser on the quicker tires. Yes, there goes Brian Mosser down to the inside, getting around his teammate. And now has to put the pedal to the metal here and see if he can get around Noganator and put himself in the top 5. As A-Dub, within 0.5 second of Gab, although it doesn't look like it's that much. Realistically, I'm sure with the straight line speed and the DRS, it might go the way of A-Dub, but for now, Gab really has him matched. And now it's outside of a second, the detection zone coming up out of turn 12. Let's see if A-Dub is able to get back within a second. Tell you what, it's not looking like he is, and he won't. So A-Dub will not have DRS on Gab. Looks like Brian Mosser here now within 0.5 of a second on Noganator for the 5th spot. These two have battled endlessly throughout this entire season. It's been really a battle between the two. It got heated at very many points, it has to be said. It wasn't necessarily a case of anybody doing anything wrong a lot of the time. It was just simply, you know, they always kind of running into each other, and that is sometimes the reality. Now, Brian Mosser has gotten around Noganator there. They continue to touch. Noganator to the inside. Well, I tell you what, that was definitely contact being made there. I'm wondering, because Brian Mosser overtook Noganator. Was all 4 tires off the, outside the white line, going through turn 4, because that's where Brian Mosser made the move. The game hasn't instructed him to give the spot back, so I'm assuming everything's going to be okay, and Brian Mosser takes the 5th spot. But now it's Los Manigos trying to catch up to Call Me Maybe here. Remember, Los Manigos not long ago was in that incident with dead text message, which is relegated dead text back to P9, and about 9.5 seconds behind the AlphaTauri in question. DRS enabled here. Manigos to the outside. And he's going to get that one well before they reach the first corner. Nicely done there for the AlphaTauri. I believe that one may be one of the easier moves he makes today. So Call Me Maybe did well to hold on as long as he could, but I'm afraid with 19-lap-old tires, it's going to be super difficult. Noganator down to the inside. Side by side here. Oh, that was contact! No doubt about that. Somehow Noganator was able to hold on to the car, but the Mercedes and the McLaren come together again. Second time in 2 laps, and, well, oddly enough, really, in the same part of the track. Yeah, I'm sure there might be discussions about that one later on. Although I don't really think anybody did anything wrong. It just, you know, once again, these two find themselves in each other's paths. All the while, A-Dub has now, once again, found himself within a second of Gab. So those soft tires lasted about 10 laps before A-Dub got himself back into DRS range. Of course, he was outside of DRS about 2 or 3 laps ago. Call Me Maybe finally decides to pit here. DRS enabled for the Alfa Romeo down the straight here in towards turn 4. I don't believe A-Dub's going to be close enough to make the move this time by, although he is closing quite quickly here. All the while, Texas Tornado has opened up a 3.5-second gap on Soy Loco. And Soy Loco's put 2.5 seconds back to Gab. And now the battle within 0.4 of a second here. See if A-Dub's able to hold on. I'm just wondering how badly those soft tires are degrading here, because as you can tell, he has lost a significant amount of time, and, well, not really all that much time. You know, just a lap or 2 ago, he was outside of a second. I think it peaked at 1.2, and dead text message has retired. This being on the way in towards turn 10. And now Gab pits, A-Dub pits, the Mercedes of Brian Mosser pits and Noganator. Los Manigos will stay out. Well, what a monkey wrench thrown into the plans of Texas Tornado here, who for the most part seemed like he was on his way to a second win in a row. Oh, look at this! Look, oh my goodness! Nearly comes to blows with the safety car. So Gab has put soft tires again. Although I think this time that may be a good decision. A-Dub to mediums, Brian Mosser to mediums once again, Noganator also to mediums. So, how the turntables, the top 3, I think, are suddenly those at the disadvantage. Let's see if Texas Tornado and the rest decide to come in here. The gap from Texas back to P4 of Gab, which is the most recent car to have come in and made the stop, is 28.5 seconds. I would think, can Texas Tornado pit and get away with it here? Let's see. Let's see what he decides to do. I don't know. It'll be right close. 25, 26, 26.5 on the way into the pit lane for Texas Tornado. Soy Loco only 3 behind to him, and Mandigos will be another 14. Well, more like 11 back to Soy Loco, but Mandigos stays out and will inherit the lead of the Grand Prix. Texas Tornado, mediums for him. Soy Loco now on the softs. What an interesting turn of events here, and I believe Texas Tornado will be able to keep at least second place. Mandigos, having stayed out, will inherit the lead of the Grand Prix, but this has now become a very interesting race on behalf of Tire Strategy. Because as much as I think Soy Loco and Gab have taken the softs too early, they may be just able to hold out long enough to get it to the end, and at the start, at this restart here, they will be at a severe advantage. I'm going to step aside once more. So the safety car will be in once more at the end of this lap. We'll have 12 laps to go. Now, if we learned anything from Culmy, maybe, who had stayed out on the hard tires, I think Mandigos might be seriously in trouble here. Texas Tornado has a really good opportunity, but he has 2 drivers in his immediate vicinity behind him on the softs, that being Soy Loco and Gab. They'll only need to take the soft tires 12 laps, and Gab was at about 10 when the safety car came out, so I definitely think it's possible. Mandigos, I don't think, has gotten away quick enough. Texas Tornado will be breathing down the neck of the AlphaTauri here on their way into the first corner. It does look as if Mandigos will be able to stay ahead for now, but I think when they get to the straight line speed, it will be all the Alpine of Texas Tornado. Now out of the third corner, down to the inside is Texas Tornado. Will he be able to get him by the time they get into turn 4? It's going to be close. Texas Tornado does just that. He's able to pull away and pull ahead of the AlphaTauri, and now Soy Loco down to the inside. He will get the spot over Mandigos, and now the race is on here for the win. It looks as if Soy Loco is managing some pretty solid pace here. If he's able to keep it up, he could really get himself past that of Texas Tornado, who currently occupies the lead of the Grand Prix. It looks as if Gab and A-Dub side by side here. Gab all the way down to the inside. He's overtaken A-Dub and now gets himself into the third spot as he passes Los Mandigos. Very nicely done from the Red Bull, who I, prior to today, has really flown under the radar this season. I tell you what, it's been a great performance from him so far, as A-Dub is going to be down to the inside of Mandigos as well. It is a 10th and a half as Soy Loco looks round the outside of Texas Tornado here. He has the fastest lap, side by side through the first couple of corners. Does Soy Loco have it? Yes, he does. Brilliant maneuver from Soy Loco, but it's not over yet. Texas Tornado, I think, gets a better exit out of the third corner. He's going to look down to the inside. Is he close enough to make it happen? No, he tucks back into line. And I think for now, Texas Tornado kind of has to play it chill because he knows in these immediate couple of laps here, Soy Loco is going to beat him for pace. However, I think towards the back end of the run, we did see the softs wear quite quickly when they got to around lap 10. And Soy Loco is going to have to go 13. Lots of stories to play here. Brian Mosser down to the inside on Mandigos. Remember, Brian Mosser and A-Dub equal on points for the championship lead coming into tonight. Brian Mosser has gotten around the AlphaTauri, and that will kind of hold up Noganator behind him. So now Brian Mosser has about almost 2 seconds to get back to the Alfa Romeo to really get even with him here and to put himself back atop the table. Gab has gone fastest, 1:11.016, sets the fastest lap now as DRS re-enabled here. Mandigos and Noganator side by side through the first couple of corners. Let's see if Noganator is able to get around him. Yes, he does. Nicely done from the McLaren. Down the straight they go. Texas Tornado to the inside, and he's taken the spot. But Soy Loco switches back, and a brilliant maneuver by Soy Loco is able to retake the lead only seconds after he had lost it. And now they're side by side, going up the hill through turns 6, 7, and 8. That is a very difficult section of the track to even drive in. Never mind, go side by side, and a wiggle from Soy Loco, and this battling with Texas Tornado has now opened the door for Gab. Do we perhaps see a 3-car battle for the lead of the Grand Prix here, as we're within 10 laps to go now? Anything can happen. Remember, Gab pitted at the start of the safety car. Soy Loco waited until the next time by to finally come in and fit those softs. So realistically, Gab the oldest tires out of anyone in the top three. However, the softs are still the softs, and I think with Texas Tornado having DRS to Soy Loco, that is really going to hurt the Red Bull here, as Noganator and Brian Moss are side by side. Gab tucks in behind, as it looks like Noganator has done his best. Oh! What in the hell is this? Brian Mosser's gone clean into the back of the McLaren here, and has picked up a 3-second time penalty as well. Well, they had come together multiple occasions earlier on in the race, and multiple times this season as well. And either Brian Mosser's missed a braking zone or it's all gone boiling over there. Noganator, I think, has the right to be fuming, because once again, with a good result from Noganator, he was going to be able to put himself back in the fight. But I'm afraid that may not be the case, as Noganator is, he's down by, about 60 points coming into tonight. Once again, that's the gap from first to P19. And, with 2 rounds to go after tonight, he does need a lot of luck, and, well, the luck has not come for him tonight. And I'm afraid he's running out of time for it to count. Texas Tornado looks around the outside of Soy Loco on their way into the first corner. Does Gab poke his head in this battle as well? Once again, with the 2 cars battling ahead, the Red Bull may get an opportunity here. Soy Loco does stay ahead, but with DRS once more. Oh, let's see, this is going to be a close one. Does Gab have enough to get to Texas Tornado? I don't think it's going to be on this section of the track, but maybe, just maybe, coming out of turn 12 and 13, that's where the move is going to be made. Looks like Mandy goes maybe, trying to get around. Call me maybe, but Gab, who I think was realistically on the precipice of a win, it's all gone spinning away from him. On his way in to the uphill section of Sector 2. Oh, so heartbreaking for Gab. He was really on pace to have a good result there. And I'm afraid it's just not going to be his day. That will shorten the battle for the lead of the race down to 2. 0.2 of a second in closing. Texas looks down to the inside. He's not going to have it here. 7 laps to go here. Texas Tornado down to the inside. Is he going to have it? I think the softs are finally starting to whittle away. Texas Tornado will take the lead of the Grand Prix. Soy Loco, I think, still reasonably enough in pursuit. He saved up a lot of battery as well. Still about 40%. The Texas is less than 10. It's 0.2 of a second here. Soy Loco doing his best to try to keep within reach of Texas Tornado, but I'm afraid, has the crossover point finally happened between the softs and the mediums? I think that's what we might be looking at here, as now A-Dub pokes his head on this battle as well. A-Dub has remained, rightfully quiet through a lot of this Grand Prix. It looks like he's been on the back foot for a lot of it, but now, oh, that was a big wiggle coming out of the corner there. Soy Loco falling almost outside of DRS range entirely. A-Dub will not have it to Soy Loco. We have 6 laps to go. In towards the first corner here. Oh, I tell you what, it's got to have happened, hasn't it? The mediums are just going to be faster now. DRS still available here for the Ferrari. But I tell you what, I'm interested to see if A-Dub can catch up to this. He still has time. He does need to get within DRS range of Soy Loco, and the farther that Soy Loco backs behind Texas Tornado with the tires degrading, A-Dub will have that chance, but he really needs to put the pedal to the metal here and start to really pressure these top 2. Brian Mosser behind A-Dub by about 5 seconds, also having the 3-second time penalty, and perhaps even more with the contact he had with Noganator that sent him for a spin going through turn 1. It's 0.8 of a second between these two at the top. At the detection zone, Soy Loco will stay within DRS range for another lap. If we compare straight line speed, I will say Soy Loco about nearly 10 to 20, well, 10 to 15 miles an hour faster than Texas Tornado simply on the straight line. Of course, he had DRS as well, but still, 15 miles an hour is a lot. Under the bridge, into the first corner, he's 187, and Soy Loco is 197 at that same braking zone. I think throughout Sector 2, as Gab picks up 5 seconds for speeding to the pit lane, his day is surely done here. I think it is really Soy Loco does have Texas on the straight line, but as you get through Sector 2, that's where the gap starts to be amassed here, as now he falls down outside 8.5 tenths, as he is really struggling with oversteer. He's lighting up the rear tires. Soy Loco, I think, may just need to be careful because now is outside of 1 second. Does he stay outside of a second in the DRS detection zone? Yes, he does. Soy Loco will now fall outside of DRS range back to Texas Tornado. We knew the crossover point was around 10 laps. 7. So 3 laps ago was when Texas Tornado really started to be a realistic threat, and you know, Soy Loco to overtake the Ferrari. Tell you what, Soy Loco made his way back within a second. Again, the straight line is impressive from the Ferrari. There's no doubt about that. But I'm afraid it's everywhere where there's not a straight line is where he's lacking. I think Soy Loco may need to wish for a miracle here, because I tell you what, the tires of the Ferrari are just probably not in it anymore. About 8 tenths of a second. That's about equal with what it was the last time round, although you could see, look how much he's struggling to get back on the throttle. Especially coming out of that 10th corner. We've seen that last lap as well. It is really just on acceleration. That's where the Ferrari's struggling, because he's got him on a straight line. At least he did. Tell you what, they're about even now. Still has him by about 5 miles an hour, realistically. He's getting himself within DRS range, and in fact, he'll have it coming out of turn 3 here. And he's used up a lot of his battery as well, and he's not really got any to keep using either. I think, as long as Texas Tornado keeps it clean, this will be a back-to-back win here for the Alpine. And a well-earned one at that. He stayed out of trouble. He was able to pick his chances and nail the strategy as well when it mattered. He's done just that. With 2.5 laps to go now, Texas Tornado has a 7 tenths of a second gap over Soy Loco. But I tell you what, I think there may have been a mistake made there from Texas, because Soy Loco has subtracted about 2 tenths of a second on acceleration. Battery being used here, 8 tenths of a second. Soy Loco back within DRS range. It's 7 tenths of a second in closing. I tell you what, a sudden rejuvenation from Soy Loco here. I tell you what, with 2 laps to go, Soy Loco may very well make this one a race. Let's see if he's able to handle it. 5 tenths of a second. Soy Loco still doing everything he can. DRS activated as well. He's closing in on the Alpine, but only just about a tenth. Once again, if Soy Loco, I think if he's going to be able to overtake Texas Tornado, it's going to be down the pit straight. But now, once again, within 3 tenths of a second, I'm just wondering where Soy Loco has suddenly lost the time. If he had just kept it clean, he would have won the Grand Prix. But now, 6 tenths of a second shorter for gap, and down to the inside is Soy Loco. Texas has gone wide through turn 9. He's going to hold on for now. But Soy Loco breathing down the neck of the Alpine here. For the penultimate time through turn 12, it is a 4 tenths of a second gap. Soy Loco has made up about 6 tenths of a second. But then these last few laps, he struggled again getting back on the throttle. I think Texas Tornado is struggling just as much. DRS open again, half a second, and closing. Coming to the line for the penultimate time. Final lap of the Grand Prix. Soy Loco round the outside. Does he have it through the first couple of corners? Yes, he does. But Texas Tornado now still side by side. down the hill through the Senna S's, and that may be it, because Texas Tornado has taken the spot back. It's 0.3 of a second here. Soy Loco still has a chance. I think he'll need to get him on exit of turn 12. Oh, Soy Loco was millimetrically away from having the win there. If he had just slightly defended better, and he defended damn well, he only just allowed Texas Tornado enough room to get back in. And Soy Loco, I think, on the ropes here. And the referee might be pointing to the bell very shortly. However, 0.4 of a second. Does Texas Tornado hold on? Does he make it clean through turn 12? Does Soy Loco get a better exit? No. No, he does not. Soy Loco has smacked the throttle coming out of the final turn 12. And now through the final corner down to the pit straight, Texas Tornado is able to hold off the charging Ferrari behind him. And give a hand to Soy Loco as well, because he did everything he could, and he really made it interesting there. But I'm afraid the soft tires were just not enough at the end of the run for the mediums. And Texas Tornado will take the win, his second in a row, back-to-back, last week in Japan and this week in Brazil. A-Dub comes home in third, Brian Mosser fourth. And don't forget, there may be penalties applied to the Mercedes as well, which means A-Dub will take an outright lead to this championship going into the penultimate round next week in Qatar. Wow. So after it's all said and done in a very exciting Brazilian Grand Prix, Texas Tornado holds off the pressure from Soy Loco to take the win. A-Dub will finish third. Brian Mosser, before penalties applied, finishes fourth. Call Me Maybe fifth. Los Mandigos sixth. Seventh is Noganator. Eighth is Gab. Ninth, Dead Text Message. And unfortunately, from Dead Text Message on back, they did not finish the Grand Prix. And next week, we head to Qatar for the first ever time, barring that race in F2, first time ever in Thursday Division racing at the Lusail International Circuit for the penultimate round of the 10th season of the Midwest F1 League Hotspot. It's been a pleasure joining you this time out. We'll see you next time.